It's a muscle building showdown. Barbells versus dumbbells versus machines. Which ones are best? Which ones are worst? Let's get into it. Let's start with barbells.
Race them.
We will start with barbells, and I think I'll start with the pros. Like, what are barbells the best at? And I think I can say this pretty confidently. You could load them the best, right? You can just add a lot of weight.
Stack all the weights on.
Yes, 100%.
Well, and considering how important progressive overload is to seeing progress and hypertrophy, that is a massive pro. So it's not like a kind of pro, because somebody might hear that and be like, okay, cool, no big deal. But that's like a big deal when you think of it like that.
Now, so by the way, this discussion is kind of silly because a good
why limit
routine,
yourself to just that, right?
Yeah, you use them all, but
It's
really
not one or the other.
But really, what we're trying to do here is talk about what each one is best at and what each one is worst at. This way, when you put your routine together, there are ways of using barbells that'll maximize their benefit. There are ways of using dumbbells that will maximize their benefit. Same thing with machines. And if you do this properly, you can program them in ways to where you get the best out of all of them and you minimize the weaknesses.
Yeah. Typically bilateral movements. I mean, you can lunges, you can do like long lever type overhead presses with just one arm. I mean, it's insanely difficult, but the best uses of it are typically bilateral exercises.
Yeah. And for athletic performance, especially in the earlier days, right? As you get more specialized in your athletic pursuits, like when you get to college and at that level, then this isn't so as important. But for just general athletic performance, like barbells are the best, man. You get a high school kid to get stronger at a squat, you'll see it. Well, you'll see on the court, you'll see on the field.
Foundational strength.
I was just going to say, so to me, that wasn't written on your pro. I think that is a point in itself is its pro is it's the best for building foundational strength.
Yes.
I think that's I think you're right. As we get into an athlete into like maybe their later years of high school or college, and definitely into the pros, their warm-ups, their training becomes far more specialized, becomes far more into injury prevention than it is. But early on, the kid who learns to build strength early or first has a massive competitive advantage versus his peers.
Yeah. When you coached your football team, Justin, and you guys did a lot of barbell exercise.
We did, yeah.
What did you notice with these kids? Because they were all high school, right? Like sophomore, juniors. Like, what did you see?
Just, I mean, you saw so many things. Just their overall, even their coordination, which you don't think like because you're not doing complicated multiplanar movements per se, but like just the overall strength they could summon, their power, their snap, their overall confidence. And of course they built muscle, which you could see like everybody gained, 5 to 15 pounds or so. And that amount of muscle just translated so well to the field.
I think also with barbells, you have the best exercise. Now, all exercises have value if applied properly, and there's always better exercises than others depending on the situation. But generally speaking, the best exercises, the best strength training exercises to ever exist are the barbell ones. Your overhead press, your deadlift, your squat, your front squat, your power clean, your all the best general exercises are done with a barbell. That's, to me, one of the biggest pros of training with barbells. You get to pick these incredible exercises that are performed best with the barbell.
Moves the needle the most.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why we stick with them.
Yes. Cons. Let's get to the cons with the barbell. I think with a barbell, you can get some asymmetry, or at least it doesn't address asymmetry as well as other methods. So now it'll address gross asymmetries, but a 2-rep difference between right to left, or a little bit of a balance or stability difference between right to left. Like you could train a long time with barbells and that asymmetry sticks because your body learns how to compensate because both sides are lifting the barbell. It's not independent.
Well, this is the case. This is the case I would make on why you can't just do barbells, because at some point, and I've never met a perfectly symmetrical person yet. Never met somebody who doesn't have some sort of asymmetry. And so you will get this and it will develop. And if you only train bilateral barbell type movements, it's only going to exacerbate that asymmetry over time.
Yep.
And so at some point, even if you use barbells for your foundational strength and your athleticism and to build that initial hypertrophy and strength, you will eventually need to move beyond just that to address the asymmetry. Otherwise, it will manifest into injury, chronic pain, and other things
or
down
exercise
the road.
or even performance leaks.
Sure.
Yeah. Next, it's not, obviously, I think this is obvious, but it's not great for isolation work. And isolation work has real value for both hypertrophy, so bodybuilders will utilize isolation work, and also just to work on target muscles where you don't want other muscles doing the work necessarily, so you could address certain things. Like, obviously, a barbell isn't great for isolation. Now, there are bilateral, quote unquote, isolation exercises, but they're not, barbells are not, if I'm thinking of an isolation exercise, I'm not picking a barbell to do that kind of work. Correctional work, here's another one where it's not great. Now, I will say this, that building strength in general is correctional, but if I'm doing specific correctional exercise with someone, I'm typically not grabbing a barbell. I'm typically going for dumbbells or machines.
You'd rather have like independent weight and just something that's a little more manageable to kind of work around that.
I'm trying to think of a situation where I would ever have used a barbell
for correctional work.
You would never do that.
Usually not.
I can't even think. Can you think of?
I'm sure there is. If I had to really think
I know.
about
I'm trying. That's what, when you were saying that, I'm like, wait a second. Where?
It's the last thing I would grab.
Yeah, it's just like where you. I
could shoehorn it. I mean,
I guess if you had no dumbbells and I had to find a way to kind of balance you out,
right.
I think we could be forced to. But I would say it's terrible for that. I mean, it's just correctional work. Typically with correctional work, there is some sort of asymmetry between left to right, which is most common, right?
Just imbalances in general.
And a barbell, even though you can do things like suitcase carries and some things where a Turkish get up with a barbell, and there's some unique one arm exercises for the barbell, but very unique. For the most part, you don't do anything with one arm on the barbell. Therefore, if you have a discrepancy from left to right and you need to try and balance that out, it's almost necessary to have.
The only thing I could potentially think that might relate is like addressing sticking points, but that would be for specific lifts and not necessarily corrective postural type movements.
Yeah, I don't know if I wouldn't categorize
it wouldn't
that
be
as
the same category,
corrective or asymmetry, right? So I think for corrective work, it's almost irrelevant or non-existent, right?
Now, the best exercises with barbells that I think you can't find great replacements for deadlift, like, can you do deadlifts with dumbbells? Yeah, or the machines with deadlift? Yeah, but it's not really the same thing, not even close.
No.
And a back squat.
Yep.
Those two exercises are pretty exclusive barbell movements.
Yeah.
For sure. Let's get to dumbbells. So dumbbells are also free weights. They're also great. I think dumbbells are great for symmetry.
Yes.
They really are. Like you have two independent weights. Your asymmetries become quite glaring, and there are ways of really showing yourself asymmetry. Like if I do two dumbbells at the same time, I'll notice. If I do one dumbbell without the other one and count the reps, then I really notice. So when you're trying to build symmetry in the body, right to left symmetry, like dumbbells are amazing for that.
It gives you such a broader base of variety too.
Yeah.
The way that you can train with them, even just like unilaterally or having alternating or having one holding in an isometric. And so there's just like, it's pretty crazy what you can do with dumbbells versus a barbell.
Well, this is why I would say that the dumbbell is the go-to tool for the bodybuilder.
Yeah.
You don't do a lot of barbell lifts, although I would say I did more than probably the average.
Early years, right? Build that mass initially.
Yeah, but primarily most of my lifts were dumbbell related, aside from the couple exclusive things like squatting and deadlifting, like you said. The rest of the time, I'm like, if I'm gonna bench press, I'm gonna use dumbbells. I'm just for the body sculptor, the person that wants to really focus on symmetry. It is so good for that. And as you get more experience, you can start to kind of catch that real time. And what I mean by that is like, I could be doing a dumbbell press, right? And I feel my left starting to fatigue and get out. And then I'll stop the exercise right there, right? So with and that would be weird with a barbell. You wouldn't feel
wouldn't
that.
even notice it.
You wouldn't feel that. You wouldn't feel the discrepancy from left to right. The bar would slow down or not move, but you wouldn't know it's because the left isn't giving as much power as the right. And so when I was training for bodybuilding, I would be doing an exercise with dumbbells, and if I noticed one side was starting to fatigue or give out, that's the end of the rep. Whereas if that was a barbell, I would have finished that rep out.
That's right.
And so that again just continues to exacerbate that asymmetry. Whereas if you're trying to balance that, that's a great way to kind of balance that, is catching it in real time. That's a huge pro to the dumbbells.
Yeah, you know what you said, Justin, too. It's versatile. Like dumbbells are super versatile. There's so many exercises I could do with dumbbells.
So much variety, yeah.
So much variety. It's even versatile for power. Like if I want to develop power, dumbbells require less skill. It's way less skill involved doing a snatch with a dumbbell than it is with a barbell. So I could, versatility wise, I could take somebody and teach them. It would take far less time for us to get to the power movement with a dumbbell.
Well, yeah, and you can keep it more like centrally located to your body, so you have way more control over that, which it brings the risk factor a lot further down.
Today's program giveaway is MAPS Powerlift. If you want to win, leave a comment below this video. In the first 24 hours that we drop it, subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications. If you win, we'll let you know in the comment section. We also have a sale this month, MAPS 15 Performance and the RGB Bundle. All of that 50% off. If you're interested, go to mapsfitnessproducts.com. Use the code MAY50 for the discount. Back to the show.
And again, back to the bodybuilding when it comes to sculpting a physique and targeting smaller muscle groups. You know, you think of the big barbell lifts, and that gives you overall general strength in the big muscle groups. When you get into sculpting the body, you might be trying to target just the rear delt. You know, or you might just be trying to target
doing that with barbell.
Yeah, try doing that with a barbell. Target a very small muscle. It's not that it's impossible, but it's very difficult. And there's a lot of ways to do that when you have dumbbells. And so for the people that are into sculpting a physique, yes, again, the dumbbells are incredible for this.
Dumbbells are the best for stability. You want to develop stability in a joint, the ability to support and stay steady. Like dumbbell exercises are excellent for that. It's a great way to develop that joint integrity, that stability, that where the joint it feels secure because you're balancing away. Barbells are good for this too, but a dumbbell's even better because you have one arm or one side of your body doing the work.
Well, this is actually why most of my clients, not all, but most of my clients, since we trained middle-aged or older, deconditioned clients that didn't have a lot of strength training, I almost always started on dumbbell movements for that stability. And if you look at the way MAP Starter is designed, MAP Starter, and I know you hear us talk about MAPS Anabolic being like our foundational program. It really is, but it's a foundational program for people that have already been introduced to strength training and have some familiarity with some of the barbell movements. That's really it. Otherwise,
beginner?
Yeah, total beginner is like going into MAP Starter, which is all dumbbell focused. And for that reason right there, because you take somebody who's never lifted a weight before and you put them in with these independent dumbbells, that's a quick way to get that stability. And then when they'll carry that over into the barbell and be able to get more out of the barbell.
That's right. All right, some cons. I mean, for some lifts, it's just harder to load. Like doing lower body exercises, for example, with dumbbells, like at some point it just gets silly and you need a barbell. There's a lot of lifts like that where loading heavy starts to get a bit silly with dumbbells because they're hard to wield, they're hard to maneuver, and the stability component starts to get in the way.
Well, and you can hold on to with two hands or both feet significantly more weight.
That's right.
So not only just the loading aspect, but you can hold on to more weight when you're utilizing both hands or both feet in a movement. And so at some point, this becomes the limiting factor for the client who only does dumbbell stuff, is that, hey, and this is common. You've heard it probably on the podcast. We'll get somebody who's working out from home, and they've been working out from home for years, doing all the movements that we recommend, and they're already holding on to 80-pound dumbbells for deadlifts, and it's like
how do I get better results?
Yeah,
get a barbell.
Yeah,
it's not challenging anymore.
Yeah, and for the strong person who's been deadlifting or exercising for a couple of years, 160 pounds on the deadlift is not crazy.
No.
I mean, Katrina at one point was deadlifting 275. So she would never be able to get even remotely close to that if all she had was dumbbells.
That's right. Which, is the next point. You really can't effectively do some of the best exercises like squats and deadlifts. Squats and deadlifts, they're good when you get started with dumbbells, but then they suck with dumbbells as you start to reach a certain level.
You really have
of strength.
to modify it. Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, you could put yourself in a split stance but now we're really just exaggerating that instability to try and work on that type of train, which is valuable.
But it's not the exercise.
But it's not loading. It's not that big signal.
Right.
Oh, you bring up a really good point. Like I think what you're trying to make this point where this conversation, it's not, nobody here is saying it's impossible or saying one is necessary. It's just that some of them have advantages and disadvantages.
That's right.
Like Justin said, if I only had dumbbells, it doesn't mean I couldn't get a client great results.
No.
Like I would find a workaround. We wouldn't be doing any barbell back squat because we don't have a barbell. We would be doing things like Bulgarian split squats and lunges and stuff like that, and we can get great results. But you are forced to become more creative.
You are.
Where loading the barbell for a back squat or deadlift leaves a lot of room to progress.
Such a big signal.
For a long time.
Build.
I mean, you could work on getting stronger in those big movements for years
and
years of perfecting those movements and adding weight to the bar without the weight ever being a factor of, I can't hold it anymore because I've got both hands or both feet.
Yeah. Favorite exercises with dumbbells. I mean, anything for shoulders, anything for arms. I think dumbbells are the best. Like you really want to develop incredible, strong, stable shoulders. Dumbbells are great. You want to do isolation exercises for the upper body. Dumbbells are absolutely great. And even for chest and back, dumbbells are really, really great. So, but for me, if I had to pick like a favorite exercise with dumbbells, like, one arm overhead press or two arm overhead press is like, man, I could get the range of motion. I love barbell overhead press. Don't get me wrong. It's a close second. But if I had to pick one or the other, it'd be dumbbells for sure.
I like that.
All right, let's get to machines. Machines, they're the best for isolation. The best. Like you cannot isolate a muscle as effectively as you can with a machine because you don't have to balance it.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about going in the wrong direction. It's on a track. It's going in the right direction. All you got to focus on is feeling the target muscle and moving it in isolation. Like you cannot isolate a muscle like you can on a machine.
Well, they have like all the padding and all the different positional help for rest, where we can now really just focus in on the one action versus trying to stabilize your whole body up in against gravity.
Well, gravity was the point I was going to make. The one major con that both the barbell and dumbbell share is that they require to work against gravity.
Right.
Where with a cable machine, I can position that anywhere. And so if I want to target a certain muscle, I don't have to think of like, gravity is going to be pulling down this way.
How do I
This is the
position my
angle
body?
I put myself.
So I had to put my body all sideways to
anchor
oppose
my
that.
legs here.
So it's great that you can target a muscle. You do not have to factor in gravity to target that muscle.
Yeah.
And that's a huge con because you can get into a cable machine. It was also what I liked about cables too, is it's so versatile that you could take a client, I had done this before, where it was, I remember I'm sure you guys did the same thing. Gym's so packed, everything's got a line.
Do all your workout right there.
I'll train the whole workout on a cable machine. I can get an entire full body workout and never have to change anything but the weight and maybe the arm angles, and I can hit every muscle on the body.
That's right. They're also good for training while injured. I mean, if you have an injury, typically you can use a machine before you could do anything else because you get in the machine, you can limit the range of motion. I don't need to balance it. I don't need to stabilize it. It's safe. I'm not going to drop something on myself or re-injure myself. In fact, this was why machines were invented in the first place. The first machines that were really commercially, built or used, some of the first ones were for rehab.
Yeah. Yep.
So when it comes to injuries, like if I had a client that was injured, oftentimes it was bands, and then past that it was machines, which were the best for that. Yeah. Next, they're not as taxing. I think the reason why bodybuilders, I can say this pretty confidently, one of the reasons why bodybuilders love machines so much, and remember, these bodybuilders are huge. They're already massive, tons of muscle. I think they love the isolation component, and it's also not as taxing. I mean, when you're 250 pounds and just jacked, and you're trying to do exercise, like that's a lot of muscle to move. It gets exhausting, it gets taxing. So you want to isolate, get the muscle, and the machine just does some of that work for you by stabilizing it, and then I can just focus on developing that muscle. I think it's got to be one of the reasons why.
Yeah, whether they know that or have just subconsciously figured that out, I agree with you, because you can have, when you're training as much as a bodybuilder is, you're in the gym 7 times a week, sometimes twice, 7 times a week, right? And so you just cannot do.
Yeah, imagine doing barbells.
You cannot do barbell squats, deadlifts, and overhead presses 14 times in a week, and see any sort of progress in your body. I mean,
especially if you need volume.
Yes. Right? Yeah. So the machines and cables and stuff become great ways to add volume to the body and the training without overtaxing the CNS. And I think and whether they know that going into it or they've just figured that out, like, oh, I can do those extra cable exercises and it doesn't totally screw me over for recovery. No. It is why, for sure.
Yeah. Now some of the cons of machines, they don't have as much carryover to everyday life. All right. And here's the simple reason why. So getting stronger in general will always make life easier. So I want to say that first, because you get those fitness nerds that are like, this is baloney. You get strong. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you get stronger. You're probably going to move better in life. But we're comparing machines to barbells to dumbbells. In life, you're never lifting anything that isn't free. Everything's a free weight in life. A table, a couch, a box, a jug of water, your kids. Nothing's on a track. Nothing's a weight stack. It's all free. And so free weights it's more like real life. And so you gain, 20% more strength with free weights. You'll feel that more in life than you will if you gain 20% of strength with machines.
Well, and there's also this interesting phenomenon that you've talked about before also, where it's like, if you get really, really strong in a machine exercise, or let's use something like the leg press. And then let's say you get really strong on the leg press. You started off at 200 pounds and now you're pressing 900 pounds on the leg press. You may not even see your squat go up out of your barbell back squat. But if you get really, really good, if you go from 200 pounds to 400 pounds on the barbell squat, I guarantee your leg press will significantly go up. And so the strength doesn't carry over from the cable machine strength the same way that free weight strength carries over into the cable and machine.
Yeah, so if you want to feel it in the real world, free weights will do that.
I always remember that too with the Smith machine, and some of my clients would prefer it, and I would try and explain that, but then would have to physically take them over to the bench press and feel the difference. And it's just like having a track and having this minimal amount of variability in that exercise, you take all these other variables you don't even foresee on the bench press, and now it's like an entirely different experience.
It's also, machines also aren't the best for mobility or stability, because you're not requiring much of training in that regard. In fact, I've experienced personally, now I'm going to be clear for the fitness nerds that are going to try and counter this, getting stronger generally improves mobility, okay? Just generally does. But again, we're comparing. And if you have great mobility from strength training with free weights and then you switch purely to machines, you'll lose mobility. I've experienced this. I've experienced going from pure free weight training, using the overhead press as an example. I've gone from doing only overhead presses with free weights to only using overhead presses with machines. Great delt development. I'm getting hypertrophy. Go back to free weights. I lost mobility. Now my shoulder starts to hurt when I use a barbell for overhead presses, and I got to go and retrain myself with the barbell. Yeah. And then as far as stability is concerned, again, so just terrible misinformation that you'll get from these fitness nerds. They'll highlight these studies and they'll say, look, all the stabilizer muscles are just as active. That's not the same thing. You can I could put EMS, I could put electrodes on Adam's body and activate all his muscles. Yeah. That doesn't mean he can move them and operate them in a particular way. There isn't just activation. Yes, you activate stabilizer muscles anytime you do a machine. Okay, that's true. But it's different than practicing and using and training the central nervous system to use those stabilizers in real ways.
It's also the range of motion. It's the whole full range of motion that doesn't get expressed. So now you're leaving yourself susceptible. Yep. If you do grab a weight that's not on a track, and it's just the minute a millimeter difference.
Yeah.
In your body is just trained to be strong with specificity where I've trained it and stressed it. And if you haven't stressed it there, you don't have the strength.
Now, since we're talking about cons of the machine, I think that we should add this bit of the conversation in there that I think is a mistake that people make. Is many times, and I already alluded to it. What did I say? Our starter program is completely comprised of. It's a bunch of dumbbell, free weight, stability ball type stuff for that. But there is this misconception for the average consumer who comes in the gym and I understand why. Because you can look at the picture on the side of the machine and in red, it tells you what muscles it's working. It's simple. You get in there, you push, you pull, you do the thing. And so I understand the desire to go that path, but it is not the ideal way to start your strength training routine. Yeah. Your ideal way to start strength training would be free weights. Yep. Just start light and easy.
By the way, your body is a free weight. Body weight exercise is a free weight.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And so to start training yourself and get strong with these machines, you are losing out on the extra benefits that you would get for the same amount of time in the gym and effort. If that was just put towards the free weight training first, you'll reap more benefits. You'll have more carryover in strength. You'll see more results. But people tend to gravitate towards the machines because they think, oh, this is for beginners and it's easy because I can just go in there. But in reality, I would never start the beginner on the machines.
What makes the machine easier is you look at the picture and it tells you what to do. Whereas with the dumbbell, you look at it and it's just a bunch of potential.
Right.
And I don't know all the exercise, but there's an infinite number.
I hold my body.
Here's a con with machines that a lot of people don't realize is they're just not individualized for different bodies. They're not.
They're designed by they have 5'8", 100-something pound guy. Or
and there's some variance up or down. But if you're short, tall, your arms are longer, like
wide.
Even a guy like Adam, Adam goes in, and I know I have to even do this. I'm only 6 foot. I'm not this giant guy. I'm 6 foot tall. But even when I use machines, I have to maneuver, position my body differently to align my elbow with the pivot point. Because if I just go in the machine the way I'm supposed to, it's off because my body doesn't fit the way the machine was designed. In fact, this is why machines actually can oftentimes have a high injury rate. It's not because the machine isn't safe. It's because the person's body doesn't match the way the machine was designed. And this typically happens with people who are shorter or taller than the average.
Yeah, if you fall into the very average body type, then this doesn't really apply that much to you. But a lot of people don't. That is the average. So I get that there's a percentage of people that, they're fine. But for the most part, if you're above average or below average when it comes to height or size and weight, like machines I've always had to position myself all awkward or different in them. You know? And luckily I understand.
You understand biomechanics.
I understand biomechanics. So I understand, I know how I need to position my body in order to get the most of the machine. Most people don't. Most people will sit in there and just go about it. And so to your point, and even if it's not a risk and injury thing, it's just that you're not reaping the most benefits for that. I mean, there's so many better things that you could be doing free weight wise. And
free weights, they go to your body. Yeah. So you move a free weight, it moves according to your body. Right. When you move in a machine, you're moving according to the machine.
That's right.
So favorite exercises, I like back exercises with machines because the back is there's so many muscles on the back and there's so many different angles you can hit it from. And I personally can use a lot of volume for my back. And so machines, if I'm ever going to be in a gym and be like, I'm going to do like a machine only workout, it's probably for back. I almost never do it a pure machine workout for anything else.
I don't know if I have like a favorite exercise. I have a
favorite machine I could talk
So
about.
I have you talk about this, and I think I have a favorite way I like to use machines. I love to use machines as just going in and touching the weights. I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
It's like I've already trained a couple times that week on free weights. Maybe I'm in a hotel or a gym, and it's just like I just want to get in there, get a little bit of a pump, move. I'm in lazy mood. I'm not in a mood to get after it. I don't need to. Already did earlier that week. It's like I'm going to go in there and just kind of go through the motions. And so almost like we talk about focus or trigger sessions.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I love to use. Or let's say I overreached. Let's say I'm running a MAPS anabolic program. I'm on my third foundational day and my second foundational day. I really push things too far, and so maybe I exchange all the exercises that are barbell and stuff, and I go all machines that day because I overreached on Wednesday or whatever. And so that's how I like to use machines.
The other way to use it that I've found is if I want to do a really high volume workout. if I want to do a really high volume workout, it's way too taxing to do just barbells and dumbbells.
Yeah.
So I'll go in and do just a bunch of machines, and I could do a long workout because I like working out. I'm one of those weirdos without frying myself, without frying my body. All right. Hey, I got to tell you guys, so the Shilajit market is exploding on social media, right? Like nobody heard about it. Then now everybody's hearing about it. We were always proud because Organifi was one of the first ones to come on and talk about it. And I knew about Shilajit just because I'm a supplement fanatic, and I knew about its value in Ayurvedic medicine. I knew it had a lot of studies behind it. So every once in a while, if I have a little bit of time, I like to look up what's happening in this, market. And a couple things have been quite apparent, which is really interesting. So I've done some reading. So first off, Shilajit is either naturally occurring or some companies are trying to make it in a lab. That's not Shilajit. So don't get lab-made Shilajit. There's only one type of Shilajit. It's naturally occurring. However, whenever you have anything that's naturally occurring, there's a wide variance of quality and potency. Just wide. Like you could take wild raspberries and you'll see a difference in nutrients. It's especially true for Shilajit, which has been made over thousands of years by plant matter decomposing, being compressed, comes out through rock. It's this plant kind of tarry material. So there's two main places, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget that Shilajit
is this, okay, so you are saying this, now I'm going like, how does the consumer know that this is of the highest quality? Is it because where it came from or the dose? Like, what is it?
Yes. Well, I'll get there. So there are the Altai Mountains and the Himalayan Mountains. Those are the two places that Shilajit.
That's it?
Yes. There's only two places that you'll find it that they'll actually go and source it from. The Himalayan Mountains, this is the most potent, the highest in nutrients. It's the dark black resin type of Shilajit. The ones from the Altai Mountains, much weaker, not as nutrient dense. So Himalayan Mountains ones are superior. Now there's a company called Prima V that has been using Shilajit or has been selling Shilajit to supplement companies or to companies for a long time. That's where Organifi sources it.
Okay.
Prima V is the best. It's purified. They make sure they have very low heavy metal content, and it's got the highest amount of kind of nutrients in this. It's standardized. They'll go in and they'll test it to make sure that every dose is the same.
How high up do they have to go to extract
thousands
it?
of mountains?
Yeah.
So, I mean thousands of of feet. Sorry.
Himalayas or
18,000 to 23. It's up in the 10,000, 20,000 feet.
Is that the only place it grows, or
in the Himalayan mountains? That's where it is.
That's
so you got to go way up there in order to get it.
Black gold up there.
Yes. By the way, I didn't know this. So there's a patent on Prima V or some of the compounds in Prima V that shows that it promotes the natural production of hormones in the body. So it has steroidogenic activity.
How strange.
Yes. I told you guys it helps with testosterone production in people. It also, this is crazy too. It seems to upregulate, actually the research shows us, upregulate the expression of genes that are responsible for synthesizing collagen and other components of muscle cells. So this is probably why when they take it, people notice their skin gets better and all that stuff. Wild.
Now, would this be similar to, like, let's say if the soil was super condensed with minerals and nutrients and all that, like is that where we're getting all the benefits from, like the mineral content from it, or like what? Like,
there's a lot of compounds in Shilajit, fulvic acid, and the other one is there's another acid that's in there that they think.
Yeah,
but there's
fulvic acid I've heard.
There's a combination of things in there, but it literally is the Himalayan mountains. It was plants from thousands and thousands of years ago that have been decomposing and being compressed in the mountains that then ooze out of the rock as this black.
That's so wild.
What's weird to me is that
there was decided to eat it.
Yeah, there was a dude thousands of years ago. It's probably some guy starving, up in the mountain.
Well, I also feel like it's always that supplement that blows up. It's the one that's so rare to find. Like it reminds me of like, remember acai berries when they was like,
they weren't rare, by the way. Huh? Those aren't rare, by the way. They're rare here.
No,
like
yeah, just say they were rare here. They weren't. You couldn't find them here. You had to get them from like South Africa or something. No, like that.
Brazil.
Is it Brazil? Yeah, I don't remember where they were, but I remember that was like the big thing. Was just like only can be found here, and there's something about the scarcity of something that makes it all of a sudden this popular. I can't wait. We have Drew. We haven't seen Drew in a long time, and he comes in the studio next week, and since his new products, I'm so curious if he's the one who's on this,
right?
Or he's got somebody in his ear.
He goes on these like quests to go even there in person,
because he's been on his game for as long as that company's been around. He seems to be like such a trendsetter when it comes to. Now you obviously knew about it. I had no idea. I never even heard about it. I remember when the first time I heard about it was when Organifi shipped it to us. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I know. What's this black gummy?
Yeah.
I know. No, I got excited right away when I saw it.
No,
like, you guys did it.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
He's so smart,
dude. Speaking of trends and stuff, have you guys seen some of the laws that Hungary has passed to help with the depopulation thing that's going on? So there's this big problem in modern societies where, they're calling it
fertility,
population collapse, right? Yeah. People are having less kids.
Yep.
And the way that society is organized now, if we don't have more people that are working to support people that aren't working, this just could cause a big problem. So a lot of these modern societies are trying to figure this out, like how do we solve this? So Hungary passed some crazy laws. You want to hear what the laws?
Is this with like robots or what?
No, dude.
Oh, okay.
They give women, so if a woman has a child, she gets a 25% reduction in her income tax for life. If she has 4 kids, she pays no income taxes.
Whoa. Talk about a serious incentive.
Look at Adam. Adam's like, I'll have 12. I'll have 4 right out the kid.
Wait, Katrina and I were just talking about this last night because, the U.S., what the U.S. passed to help support this.
What?
And I was explaining it to her. She's like, why did he do that? And I said, well, he's on the side of the fence of we don't want the U.S. to be caught in the trap of the depopulation either, because that could be really bad for our economy. So all the fertility stuff that you normally have to pay out of your pocket is he's forcing that to insurance to cover that.
Really?
Yeah. That like Trump already passed that. So that like in the all the stuff that Katrina and I had paid for in the previous years, we had to pay out of pocket, where now our insurance covers that.
That's just going to make insurance more expensive.
I mean, probably.
Yeah.
But it also incentivizes the person who probably couldn't afford.
It'll encourage it.
Oh, yeah. It's not cheap to do that. This stuff is crazy expensive.
I know. I think that the way that they'll encourage this is by doing like tax incentives. I think incentives that will help if you're a married couple with children, there'll be an incentive for one of them to stay at home. That's a big deal. A lot of people are like, we both got to work. If someone's like, wow, I don't need to, I won't have to work, and then I'll get this incentive to have a kid, I think that might help. Because here's what's happened in Hungary. Mm-hmm. Marriages have doubled, divorces have halved. Abortions have halved because of some of these laws that they passed over there. So it works.
Wow.
I mean, you talk to people who don't have kids for a little while, and you ask them, why aren't you having them? And one of the main reasons is it's expensive. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No,
it's expensive. I got to focus on my career. So
I joke about that all the time because people ask me about my toys and my expenses, and they compare me to you guys. Like, are you getting paid more than the other guys? I said, no, bro. I said, I ain't got 4 kids. So if I had 4, I said I have 4 kids, I wouldn't have all them toys.
I remind my older kids especially about that. Like, you could be a Ferrari.
You could.
While they're complaining.
Yeah.
I got to deal with you.
I saw somebody break it down one time, what the average cost of kids from 0 to 18, what it is. It's millions of dollars.
Is it millions?
It's over $1 million. Yeah. Maybe look it up, Doug, and see what it is like. What the
Doug, don't type in how much does a kid cost. You might get flagged.
the average expense of raising a kid from 0 to 18 years old, I believe it's just over.
And that's if you don't send them to private school.
Oh yeah, that has nothing to do. That gets thrown out the window. You do stuff like that. You do private school or tutoring or anything. That's like groceries and the bare necessities from 0 to 18, and I forget what it is.
$414,000.
Oh, okay. I thought it was $1 million.
I mean, that's a lot.
Oh yes, that's a Ferrari. That's still.
Oh wow, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still that. You know what I'm saying? And again, to your point, that's not. That's average for the country. That's not Bay Area. That's not.
But
private
imagine
school.
though. Imagine this, right? Imagine if the government's like, here's the deal: if you get married and you decide to have a kid, we'll give you a loan, because this is what Hungary's doing. We'll give you a loan so that, she could stay at home. But with each kid, you can get a reduction in income taxes. And you get 4 kids, you pay no income taxes for life. Could you imagine with the population explosion that would cause?
Yeah, that would definitely go
The
far.
problem with that, though, this is going to be controversial.
You have to stay married, though.
Let me see how I say this so I don't get roasted for this. It incentivizes the worst people having kids, and the best people wouldn't care. So the people that amount of money is irrelevant to them may not incentivize them to have more kids, but the people that are like, oh shit, I can keep every bit of my minimum wage, I'm going to have fucking 4 kids.
I don't think so.
And I've seen that firsthand for myself.
I know, but I think if it was like, okay, let me put it, because these are big tax cuts. It's not a little one.
I've seen that movie.
Yeah. I think you'd have to they'd have to have incentives for marriage, because I agree with you. But look, I know people who move to Puerto Rico so they can pay less taxes. I know people who move to different states.
Yeah.
And I think wealthy people pay the biggest amount.
Well, so it would have,
taxes.
that's why it'd have to be equally fair to them. It can't be like how we've scaled some of these other tax benefits where it's like, oh, if you only make this, then you get that benefit.
Dude.
It would have to go all the way up to the wealthy, which arguably are more educated and more affluent, and probably people that you probably might want to have kids.
And you don't think that somebody, let's imagine some person making, $2 million a year, right? And they could pay no income taxes for having 4 kids.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a trade. That's a great trade for some dude. So.
No. As long as but I feel like most of these tax incentives don't work that way. They normally are on a sliding scale. And which I understand, right? And I'm not, that's not me like bitching. It's just that is it really going to incentivize the part of the population that would probably be in our best interest?
I think they don't care. I honestly think they just
they just need kids.
We need people.
Yeah, we need people, and so they're like whatever, not thinking about it. So. Yeah. But I wonder if we were to do something like that. I thought that we had some stuff in the works like that right now.
I know that they're looking at it and trying to figure out like, how do we encourage this? Yeah. Like, how do we help this situation out?
Hey, did you guys see? Okay, so Netflix has a series. I've talked about the series before. I think it's the best series that Netflix has ever done, which is their version of 30 for 30. 30 for 30 is an ESPN series that they're done so well. Even if you're not a sports person, they're such great documentaries. And Netflix has a series called Untold Stories that's like that.
Okay.
And they just released The Liver Kings a couple nights ago.
Oh my God.
Oh, man.
And I had to watch it.
Oh yeah.
I had to watch it. Yeah. I mean, so the audience knows, like, he'd been trying to get on our show long before anybody even knew who he was. Then when we looked into him, we were like, nah, we're not supporting or helping that by having him on the show. So we denied that a long time ago. Then all the steroid allegations came out in the fall, and then he wanted to come back on the show. He's reached out again to us recently. We've denied it. Although I think now that I've seen the documentary, I do want to have him on the show because I want to ask him some of the hard questions. Yeah. Because it was him, and he told his whole story and was honest about all the stuff he did. And what it was really neat for me, watch the whole thing, the takeaway that I got was we recently admitted that we had hired somebody to really help us with the algorithm, right? Like, we've never really invested in that. We invested it last year and said, let's have a professional, help steer our content. Up until that point, we've been led by our gut and what we think is going to serve our community the best, not what would go the most viral, not what would make us the most money. It was always like what would serve our community the best, and that's how we've created content.
Not what's going to get the most views.
Exactly. And, of course, after almost 10 years, we go, okay, maybe we try it another way and see, and, maybe we can find a way to blend what we do with what they do. And we did it, and we got more views. The company did not make any more money. In the series, a little spoiler alert that I share here, it's just a small part of the series or the show, is he hired a company also to basically help him. He had this vision of, I want to build this supplement company. He had actually already started the supplement company, so he had it going. He was already living this ancestral life. And supposedly, even though everyone's just like, I don't know what to believe about this guy anymore, his kids were like really sick and were like having rashes and they were in the hospital a lot and stuff like that. And that he read Mark Sisson's book and Ancestral Living or whatever and started to eat this way. And he noticed it cleared his kids' skin up and they were doing better. And then the greedy money making side of him goes like, okay, I'm getting traction here. I want to figure this out. So he hired this company that basically helped create his persona. And they would literally like tell him things to do. Now, when he came and talked to them, he pitched them on this whole thing of like, why is his reason behind it and his family and all this stuff, and told them that he was living this lifestyle and was drug free. And so this company was like, we really thought this is a great message. We want to get behind it. We're going to put all our resources to really helping this guy explode. This could be massive. And they did that. And he actually really struggled with it early on. Like he said he took some like 100 cuts to do a 15-second Instagram video, 100 times practicing and fumbling all over his words and not. And what happened? He goes, this is the marketing company is speaking now, saying like, we would throw him all these ideas, and he was just like, oh, that's not me, or I don't want to do this. And they would convince, and then finally he did one, and it popped off. And then they said like a light switch went off for him, like, oh, I get the game now. And so from that moment on, his content was driven by the algorithm, and to the extreme,
he became a character.
Totally.
Yeah.
And why that was such a.
It's so funny you said what you said earlier, Adam. You didn't hear us earlier. We went for a walk. You were with Doug. You had brought up this Liver King thing. Then you took off, and Jess and I were talking. And literally what we said was, because we fired that person, right? For people who don't know, we fired him because we weren't making an impact, and it felt wrong, and it wasn't working, and we were shoehorning episodes and trying to make it work, and it just wasn't right. Eventually we're like, done. We're going to do it the way we've always been doing it, because it's not helping. One of the worst things that could have happened is had we hired
it would have worked,
and it crushed.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden we're making 10 times the business is
Now
exploding.
we're asking the algorithm what to do next.
Then we're stuck in this like you become this thing, this monster, and you just keep.
That's
going
exactly.
And
what,
I'm so happy
that was the takeaway I got from watching this whole thing. Was I was like, wow, what a blessing it was that it didn't work for us.
That's right.
Because if it did. Imagine the fights we would have had. Like, imagine if just one of us had the pull of like, yeah, this doesn't feel right. And like, bro, what are you talking about? We're doubled our business in the last month. Yeah, we're crushing. And so,
and you could justify it's still good information,
right? Because it wasn't like we weren't lying, we weren't putting. So it was still, but it still wasn't coming from like from us.
That's right.
From our gut, from our heart, from the things that have steered this company since day one. And so I thought it's such a good watch for anybody who's in this space. And they want to build something, and because there's a lot of examples like him. There's a lot of people that have figured out how to hack virality, right? How to get famous online and get attention. And I'm telling you right now,
it's a curse.
That it is a curse. You may think on the outside looking in at these people because they're flaunting their cars and they're flying private and their lifestyle, and you're like, man, I want that, and you think you want that. But what a prison to be in, to have to completely make your life
change who you are
a certain way.
And you live a lie.
And he talks about, the marketers talk about how insidious it is, because you just have, in order to keep it going, you have to keep upping the ante.
Yeah.
You got it like.
Now you're eating liver raw.
Well, exactly. It's not enough to just bite into the testicle. Now you got to kill the cow and do it on live, and then you got to bite it right after you just killed it. Like, you got to just keep upping the level to keep the attention of these people, to then monetize those people.
Yeah.
And so that was the big thing that I got from it, was probably just how tortured this dude is inside, and he's not even who he. It's all a big facade.
Yeah, dude. It's a curse. This is my number one reason why I would never let my kids become famous. Never. I would stop it if it started to happen, because first of all, it would be hard for an adult.
Yeah.
You're doing this thing, you're doing this act, and it gets popular, and you're making money, and it's all this affirmation. Okay, keep going this direction. It doesn't feel right, but the money feels good, or the attention feels good, and you keep going, and it's just torturous. A child, oh my God! This is why they're so. This is why the these childhood actors, why they one of the reasons why they get in so much problems is like as a kid, it starts to you literally believe.
Well, that's that
this
other.
is who I am.
That's that
Everybody
other.
reinforces it around you too.
That's that other Netflix show I told you guys about that were the parents. I forgot the name of that one.
Yeah,
I shouted it out last time we were talking that you got to watch because it's crazy to see. It's crazy to think like that there's parents that think the opposite of what you think right now,
know.
and they're like proud of their kid who's like
They just look at the things that the world tells you is so valuable. But my kid's making so much money.
Yeah.
It's not everything.
No.
It's not everything. And I wouldn't trade it for that to happen to my kid.
And I mean, you see what this is a grown ass man that got sucked into this
That's right.
and this trap. Like, man, a teenage kid at the formative years, and you're trying to piece all this kids like that's like. I mean, you see them spiral out after that. I mean, I don't know when the last time was the last time you guys checked up on what's his face, Connor Murphy. Remember we had him a long time ago.
He was weird there for a bit.
Yeah, he spiraled a bit there for a minute.
I think he's still. I think he has never returned, dude. I think he went off the deep end on that stuff, and he
was like the shirt off guy to then he's like this like enlightened LSD guy.
But you know what? And what watching this documentary and hearing the marketers explain this, there just a switch went for me too, because then that made so much sense to me. Like, oh, that's why even that kid went that way, because no longer was the pulling the shirt off and kissing girls.
It didn't work the same.
Everybody's seen it already. It's not cool anymore. It's not new. It's not novel. It's not crazy enough. It's like you got to do something crazier.
This phenomena that you're talking about, by the way, this happens to people who don't even become famous. They as a child they grow up people pleasing. This is what gets me attention. This is what gets me love.
Yeah.
The way that my dad shows me love is I have to succeed at doing this thing, or my parents
feel
want
like
me
that's
to be
their only value.
perfect. And then you know what happens to a lot of these adults? They grow up, they don't know who they are. And then what happens, these are the people that shock people, where you got the guy who's married, looks like he's got the wife and kids, looks like he's happy. They're like, hey, did you hear what happened to John? No, what happened? He left his wife and he's joined some whatever, and he's like, he quit his job. What? How the hell the guy? Because they just go off the deep end because they've been living this quote unquote lie this whole time, not even know who they are. Yeah. I I've had this conversation with, with people where it's like, people talk about fame like it's a good thing. I don't think it's ever a good thing. I think it's a side effect. It could be a side effect.
Not when it's just related to your work and like to something that you're contributing to the world. That's of value.
As a side effect.
As a side effect.
You know, the interesting part about that, it's very similar to like leadership, right? The best people to lead are the ones that don't want to.
That's right.
The best famous people are the people that didn't want it.
No.
Yeah.
If you and
that's why politicians
time, dude.
and so
that's why politicians are often just
if
worst.
you want it, you better be careful.
Yeah.
Because it's not what you think it is.
Yep.
And so to me, that's like if you got it because of for some reason and it was like you said, a byproduct, it wasn't like you were seeking it. That's another thing, right? It's like it just happened because it resonated with so many people. That may not be that bad, right? Because you're in it for the right reasons and it just so happened to happen. But if you seek it, boy, it'll send you down the wrong path.
It's one of the cool things about, as imperfect as our humans, that the founding fathers of this country are really interesting because they win this war. And George Washington got offered kingship.
He could have been king.
He could have become king, and he said no.
Easily.
He said
they
no.
wanted him to be king.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Speaking of wanting things, my favorite. Okay, the black cherry lime can of LMNT is the best.
No way.
I like it the best.
No way.
You like it the best?
100%.
Oh,
It's
really?
So good. So we fight over this. I'm always mad that they're gone. So
bro,
you and I
I'll
that
come
are
bring you.
Christian.
My black cherries are my last ones.
Oh, please.
I got
Really?
a whole, yes.
give them to me.
Bring them here.
Yeah, no.
What's your favorite?
Grapefruit and lime. Oh,
I like grapefruit.
grapefruit and lime, and over warm one over ice. That is the move.
Yeah, but these cans kill it. They're so. I wonder how well they're doing with the cans.
Watermelon's my second, I think.
Yeah, I wonder how well the cans themselves do.
I don't know.
Sales.
I mean, yeah, I
Are they selling them in like retail stores yet?
I've seen them.
Okay.
I've seen them. Well, I've seen them
in gyms.
Yeah, I've seen them like in gyms and stuff like that. I might have seen it. I might have seen them in Target now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I've seen them in grocery.
I mean, they've just blown up. Element has been popping up.
I got in an argument with my cousin Alex, who I love to death. He's brilliant. He's probably going to be a billionaire at some point. He sends a text to the group. I'm in this group thread right with my cousins and stuff. And he loves to be inflammatory. He's like, yeah, and I'm like that too.
Runs in the
to an
family,
extent.
huh?
Oh yeah. He just sends a text. He goes, "There's no way there isn't sugar in LMNT. They're lying." I'm like,
That's so it's a Sal text right there.
I'm like, no, there's no sugar.
Just straight fucking alarmist
maybe,
over the
It's
top.
like it tastes too good.
What was he doing today? We're just walking. He was just like, for sure, this guy's going to be this. Right? That's like, what he's like,
Wow,
bro, you just got to go that far.
I don't remember what I said. But he's like, and so we're going back and forth, and I'm
Case
like,
closed.
I told him, by the way, I'm like, this, you're gonna make a good commercial. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna tell people that you said this.
Yeah.
And I said, it's the sodium. Sodium is one of the ingredients in palatability.
Yeah.
If you want to make something tasty, sugar, salt, and fat. Those are the 3 big ingredients.
Yeah.
An element is 1,000 milligrams of sodium with stevia. Stevia is calorie-free sweetener, but because of the sodium, when you drink it, it's like a soda.
It heightens it up.
Yeah, it tastes like it's damn soda, even though it's calorie-free.
Yeah, I never use the packets anymore now that I have that.
Oh, do you?
know.
My wife
I love
lives
the
off
cans. I
packets.
can't. Help
Katrina does. Katrina still carries the packets in her purse because she finds it handy. But she can obviously carry that a lot easier than these big cans. But I can't tell you the last time I shook up a powder. I've since the cans have come, I have pretty much only carried the cans.
So my wife grew up. I don't know if she won't get mad if I share this. She grew up with the worst eating habit. Like her family's had really bad eating habits, and she says when I was a kid, I never drank water. We just had soda and juice. And so for her whole life, well, I shouldn't say her whole life. When she got into her 20s and she started discovering fitness, it was a struggle to learn how to enjoy water. She used to hate water because she always had to drink something with flavor. So then she switched and she was able to do it with water. Yeah. Then we start working with LMNT, okay? LMNT sends us these packets, so I bring them home. Now my wife won't drink water again without LMNT. All her water, LMNT. She fills up gallon jugs, and that's it. And if we don't have LMNT, I'll come home and she'll have like a migraine. I'm like, what's the matter? She's like, I'm like, are you drinking water? She's like, no, we ran out of LMNT. I'm like, babe, you need to drink water.
Still water
Yeah,
is
still
good,
dude. She likes the flavor so much. So
That's awesome. Funny.
Luminos by Intera uses peptide science to dramatically improve the health and youthfulness of your skin. They have the highest amounts of peptides that you can allow in skincare products. This stuff works. You'll notice after 1 or 2 applications, go check them out. Go to enteraskincare.com. That's ENTERA skincare.com/MPM. Use the code MPM. Get 10% off your order. Back to the show.
First question is from JT70374. Is it possible to specifically target the individual heads of the triceps? I am seeing growth in the lateral heads, but very minimal in the long heads.
You know what's interesting?
Target, yes. Isolate, no.
Yeah, well, what's cool about this, yes, very true, is that the triceps is one of the muscles where you can emphasize one head over the other because of the attachments. So the long head is the inner head of the tricep, right? That's the big meaty part on the inner head. The lateral head is on the outside. Putting your arms overhead places the long head in a stretch position. Overhead tricep extension, you will target the long head more than you will with exercises like press downs, for example.
Understanding this for both the bicep and tricep in regards to what you're alluding to, elbow positioning was one of the biggest hacks in growing my arms. So I think the way it's communicated, there's huge debate. There's either somebody who will tell you, do this exercise to isolate this part of the tricep. Well, first of all, it's impossible. It's impossible to isolate a muscle. It's definitely impossible to isolate a part of a muscle. That meaning that your body works, all the muscles work synergistically, and so you can't just take one muscle and only activate it. All the other surrounding muscles are always going to be activated
to some
and
degree,
working
right?
to some degree. So isolating a muscle or a part of a muscle is absolutely impossible. But that doesn't mean you can't target, especially a muscle that has 3 heads, right? That has different attachments. You could definitely do that. You could, and same thing with the chest. You could target other areas. Now, what I don't know, and I don't know if even our studies are clear enough to make the argument, if it's more because of the head that you're targeting, or it's the novelty of the exercise that gives you the additional hypertrophy. Because that's where it's like, could it be that, oh, it's because you now put it in the stretch position and so it's targeting that head, therefore I got bigger arms for that? Or is it I never did that exercise, now I'm doing that exercise and I got gains from that exercise?
There are the studies that they've done on this in the past where it was hard. It was a lot of speculation, like which head of the tricep got the most activated. The problem with that is activation studies don't necessarily lead to hypertrophy. However, there are hypertrophy studies that have been done with the triceps where one arm is trained one way, the other arm is trained another way. And you do see more growth in the long head than you with an overhead exercise or like a skull crusher, except where you bring the barbell behind your head, you know, where you kind of really bring it back. You do see a little bit more hypertrophy in the long head doing it that way. So for someone like this, I would say your tricep exercises, like make the bulk of the movement in overhead dumbbell extension or the rope. You're going to get more in the long head than you will with the other exercises.
Wouldn't you just want to get stronger?
Yeah, I know Justin hates
What the fuck?
No, bro. I want my triceps to look
I've
a certain way
never
too.
heard somebody ask a question like this. Yeah. Let's move on.
Moving on,
That's because
Justin.
you have big old blobby arms, bro. That's why.
Hey, he would too if he actually did some heavy weight.
Hey, no, and I'll have the guys, the boys have to link. There's a great YouTube video that we did way back in the days. In fact, you can get a laugh because how old the video is. But I remember it's one of the first ones we did. It was back in the days when Doug used to swoop in on the three of us talking. And we did when you're doing your bicep, I forget what it was titled, but you can look it up. Maybe the guys can attach it. And it's basically talking about doing the bis and tris. The most important thing you can do is the elbow positioning. And so if you just approach every time training your triceps or your biceps with that in mind, do an exercise with the elbows here, do an exercise with the elbows there, you're going to cover all your bases. You're going to get the best arms.
What would you do if you worked in a gym and someone approached you, just push them?
I would laugh at him.
You wouldn't even train them.
Yeah. Oh, you go talk
This
to
is
Adam.
where I
talk to
defer.
Adam.
Exactly.
He trains all the pussies.
Yeah. Listen, you're an Adam guy. Yeah. Go hang out.
All right. Our next question is from Tracy McCormick, 330. How do you stay motivated in a program where there is an exercise that you hate doing? For example, I despise Turkish Get Ups to the point that I don't even want to do MAPS 15 minutes.
You are picking all the people that Justin
What are you guys doing to me today?
Yeah, you know what though? I like this question because I do think it's common that we're all guilty of this to some extent of gravitating to the stuff we like to do,
Absolutely.
avoiding the stuff we don't like. The way I have reframed this personally that has worked really well for me is recognizing and actually reminding myself that where the biggest gains come from are the things
It's the greenest grass.
Yes, what I don't like doing. If I suck at it, I don't like doing it. It will give me the best benefits. It will build me the most muscle. It will get me the strongest. And so if you just reframe that so you could trade those Turkish Get Ups for the exercise you love to always do and get less gains, or you can do the thing you don't like to do and get more gains. To me, that reframing really helps me go, you know what? I'm going to do that shitty exercise because it's going to give me more return.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and by the way, use the word motivated. Like discipline is what breeds consistency, not motivation. Motivation breeds inconsistency. So if you rely on being motivated, you're gonna go through bouts of being consistent and then bouts of losing motivation, not being consistent. That being said, if you can't figure this out and there is one exercise you hate so much that it makes you not want to work out, then don't do that exercise. Fine, you win. Like if I had a client that came to me, the conversation I would have with them,
You gotta check yourself. With that.
I would have the same conversation we're having right now, and I would say to them, "This is the best exercises for you. This is how you're gonna, this is where you're gonna see the most results." And if I couldn't convince them, and they're like, "Look, I just hate it, Sal. I just despise coming in if we have to do it," I'd be like, "Okay, we won't do it then. We'll do another exercise. That's totally fine because it's better that you do some."
I think that's a good point. The exercise you love doing that you do all the time that's going to give you less benefits is still better than the not doing anything. So it's like there is a fine line of I wouldn't force my clients to do all the things they hate.
If the options are I don't work out,
right,
or I skip this exercise, okay, well then
but I would encourage them the way
one set of it.
Well, I'd still encourage them, right? That's the way I would encourage them. I think most people don't realize that. I don't think most people think of it that way, that thing I don't like to do is actually going to give me the most return. If you had it, for example, you have a job, let's say, And within that job, there's lots of different duties. And one of the duties is possibly cleaning the bathroom. The other one's filing paperwork. And filing paperwork is easy. You love doing it. It takes you can mindlessly listen to music. Cleaning the bathroom sucks. But if I told you got paid 5 times the amount for cleaning the bathroom and it's the same hour of work you got to do, are you going to file cabinets or are you going to fucking clean the toilets? Like, I'm cleaning the toilets for 5 times.
The duty is.
Yeah, for 5 times the return, I'm going to go do that, right? So I think helping your reframing the way you look at the exercises like that helps motivate you or encourage you to do the things maybe you wouldn't do. Yep.
Next question is from Mrs. Virginia Davis. I've been told collagen is an incomplete protein. Does your body utilize it the same way it would whey or pea protein? Does it count towards your macros the same way as a whole protein?
So number one thing you should consider with a protein powder is how easily can I digest this? Okay. That's number one. That trumps everything else. With that, if you consume a protein powder that's easy to digest, it means you can take more of it. And more of it, it cancels out maybe the fact that it's a lesser, it's not as anabolic or it doesn't have as great of, it doesn't contribute as much to protein synthesis or it's not as bioavailable as the other proteins. Okay, so collagen protein, I'll tell you this right now, of all the protein is the easiest to digest. It's the least likely to have intolerances. It's the least likely to cause gas, digestive issues. It's the easiest to digest for most people. That being said, if it's between whey protein and collagen and you have zero issues digesting whey is better. Yeah. Whey is a superior protein. So pick whey if you digest it easily. But if you're like a lot of people, you have a 60-gram shake of whey, you might have gas, you might have some issues.
It causes you gastral distress. I mean, it's a pretty obvious choice at that point. And
that's right.
And collagen has its own benefits as well.
That's right.
That
but
you can
eat enough protein though, and you have all the amino acids.
I would put one thing in front of digestibility, and that would be credibility. Because that's the other mistake that people make when picking a protein source is they go get the cheapest one from GNC or CVS because it's the cheapest one.
Right.
So I would make sure you're buying from a reputable brand, number one. Number two, can you digest it really well? Then
companies have been caught amino acid spiking.
Yes.
Where
it's a real thing.
When you go test the protein powder for 50 grams per scoop, you're testing for specific amino acids and you're like, oh, okay, this has 50 grams. And what companies have done is they've had less protein but added a couple of those amino acids to fool the test.
Right.
So your 50 gram of protein is actually 20 grams of protein, in which case it's not very good. So 100%.
Yeah.
Next question is from Jen Garner. How do you train with osteopenia that is the result of overtraining and undereating? So
osteopenia is bone loss, bone weakening. This is when this is the road or the step before osteoporosis, okay? And you can get osteopenia from stressing your body like crazy and undereating. In fact, osteopenia is a side effect, can be one of the common side effects of things like anorexia, okay? How do you train? Well, you strength train. You try to get stronger, coupled with
eating more.
A calorie surplus.
I mean, wouldn't you say that this is because I want to be careful on who's asking this, right? Is like step one is eat more because you weight training a bunch and you
gotta be delicate with
and you're
approach of
grossly undereating. You're not serving yourself anything,
right?
So you got to eat more. And then also weight training.
Yes. Now, weight training, if you want to get great results for your osteopenia, strength train twice a week, full body. Follow MAPS Anabolic, nothing else, no other strength training. You can stay active on the other days. I wouldn't do crazy cardio, just walking, lift weights twice a week, and eat in a calorie surplus. And you will see a reversal in osteopenia that is remarkable. But you have to feed yourself and you have to strength train, but no more than twice a week. And I'm saying this because twice a week can be very effective.
You don't overdo it.
It can be very effective for everybody. It's a great amount of volume for everybody. But for the person who overtrains, it's the best amount of volume.
Especially that person, because most people that I've had that have dealt with this have a really hard time getting their calories up and eating enough. And so You take somebody who struggles with that, and then you slap on 5 days a week of strength training.
They're overtraining.
It's way overtrained.
Yeah.
You know, and they're probably overtrained even if they were eating enough. They definitely are if they're struggling to hit those calories. Now you start hitting those calories, you do what the 2 days a week, and you build a bunch of muscle and you reverse it. Then sure, I add more later on, but. The mistake this person makes is thinking that just the strength training is all they need to do. And if you're not getting adequate calories and protein, then you're going to get minimal benefits from
Now,
that.
oftentimes the question is, how do I know if I'm moving in the right direction? Obviously, you could get bone scans, but here's how you know. You're stronger. If you're getting stronger, your bones are getting stronger. So if you're lifting weights, if you're listening to this and you follow our advice and you're working out and you're like, wow, I could do 10 more pounds on my bench press. I can do 10 more pounds on my squat. You're moving in the right direction. If you're not getting stronger, you're probably not strengthening your bones. So strength is the key. Get as strong as you possibly can. That will be the way that you gauge whether or not you're moving in the right direction. All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. Shredded, ripped, defined, single-digit body fat.
Yes.
You want to get there? Let's talk about it.
Difficult. And is it worth it? That's a follow-up question.
Yeah, first off, we got to say that, okay, so single-digit body fat, obviously, body fat percentages that can be represented by one digit, like 3%, 5%, 6%, 9%. That's ripped for men. For women,
Add 10%.
exactly. You go up about